Welcome to God Seeker. This is Elizabeth Fulgaro. The current message, Songs Which Are Prayer. How to Use the Songs, Part 1. So what are you supposed to do with the songs that I keep mentioning? And why do I keep putting them out there? Trust me, building a name or fame is not my agenda. Helping you connect with God, deepen your relationship with Him, and allow Him to transform your heart even more is. These songs are musical prayers. They are a means to connect with God. These are not necessarily church songs, but songs which are prayer, especially for use in your one-on-one time with God. Yes, one-on-one time, which becomes an anchor for your life. More on that in another message. Music, including song, is God's creation. It is part of how He made things to be. Music is vibration and frequency from which there is a measurable physical, physiological, and emotional effect in addition to spiritual effect. In the part of the Bible written by Zephaniah, who lived in the centuries before Christ, the prophet writes, God is singing over us. God says we are made in His image. We are the only part of His creation made this way. God sings. Thus, song is also part of God's design for us as well. Additionally, when music is God-focused and God-dedicated, it becomes a means of reaching toward Him, communicating, honoring, and communing with Him, even though He is invisible. In the section of the Bible known as Revelation, a man who had been close to Jesus, named St. John, wrote about a visit the Holy Spirit granted him to heaven. It includes a description of throngs of people who have preceded you there, along with thousands of angels in heaven's throne room singing God's praises. The songs honor God in His rightful role as King over all. These heavenly songs also in a special way partner with God for ongoing release of His power into the lives of those now living, including you. Here is an example from Revelation chapter 5, verses 11 through 13. Then I looked, and I heard the voices of many angels on every side of the throne, and of the living creatures and the elders of the heavenly Sanhedrin. And they numbered 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands, saying in a loud voice, Deserving is the Lamb who was sacrificed to receive all the power and riches and wisdom and might and honor and majesty, glory, splendor, and blessing. And I heard every created thing in heaven and on earth and under the earth in Hades, the place of departed spirits, and on the sea and all that is in it, crying out together, To Him who is seated on the throne, and to the Lamb be ascribed the blessing and the honor and the majesty, glory and splendor, and the power, might and dominion forever and ever, through the eternities of the eternities. Prayer, remember, is what communicating with God is called. It's where you address Him in words and thoughts, and He also addresses you. The form of the songs I keep recommending is a particular type of prayer. The lyrics seek to mimic the songs St. John chronicles about what is being sung in heaven in a manner which is thought to be ongoing, past, present, and future. A look at the songs described in heaven reveals a style in the lyrics, a certain type of prayer, which is a way of worshiping God. Consider that there are different types of prayer. Some prayers ask God to help with something. You are petitioning Him, asking Him for His help. Some prayers are asking, but not for yourself. You are before God asking on behalf of someone else. You are as if between the others and God. This is sometimes referred to as standing in the gap. Thus, this type of prayer is called to intercede or intercession. Worshipful prayers like those St. John described ongoing in heaven are distinct. They do not ask for anything, but adore God in light of who He is. God in His fullness is fully incomprehensible. To worship is to consider, to ruminate on an aspect of who God is, and then contemplate another. You extol Him in that light. When you worship, you are not only giving God credit for who He is, but intentionally fostering a focused time of heightened awareness of Him. You are paying attention. Then, in ways beyond human understanding, God meets with you there. Because you are focused on Him as you worship, it leads to encounter with the Creator of the universe, who is unfathomable and love. There in that place with Him, it's natural to slip into waves of awe, gratitude, wordless wonder, and even ecstasy. In difficult times, when you choose to worship instead of panic petition praying, by your choice to worship, it's like drawing a line in the sand, declaring you trust God no matter what. This is pleasing to God. By it, He knows you understand who He is and His role. It is to this attitude, this posture of worship, that God has a history of responding in ways beyond what you can imagine. According to God's design, which is His key to thriving for each of us, worship of Him is to be center point. This is not because God needs your worship. He doesn't. But He knows it sets up relationship between you and Him according to what the reality is. When you worship God, it creates a stance between you and Him, this posturing on your part, which sets up proper alignment for true flourishing. If God is God, then He lavishes His love on you by providing for your needs. He has the plan and lays the steps before you. His Spirit leads, guides, and enables. He has all power so that His will can go into fulfillment. Nothing exists without Him. There is no life now or forever without His assent. He is in control. You are not. To worship God acknowledges this. Worship focuses your attention on God in an expression of gratitude, honor, and childlike trust. Trust in God is what He asks of you. Trust and a listening heart which is seeking His will in order to obey. Trust and hope in Him instead of being afraid of anything else, because everything else, everything, is so much less. Worship of God is part of His setup for your benefit, for our benefit. It has always been this way. During this life, while you are still away from your true destiny with Him forever, in love, He calls you to what He knows is good for you, a lifestyle where worship of Him is the foundation. Have you heard the story of the Jews freed from slavery in Egypt, where after 400 years of bondage, God worked His power through Moses to lead His people out into freedom in a different land, where He gave them new cultural mandates by which to live, a culture by His design? God states that He brought them out of Egypt to worship Him. If His people would worship Him in spirit and truth, He would take care of the rest. Worship puts you where you belong, under God, with Him as your caretaker and you with your eyes constantly on Him. By your worship, you are expressing your acknowledgement of your need for Him. Worshipful prayer also invites God to do whatever He wants, which will be what He knows is best. Now, it's not like anyone can stop His will anyway. After all, He is God. But when you worship, you are inviting God to move in your life and the lives of those you love. It includes a surrendering of yourself to Him, an abandoning of yourself, a release of all you hold dear into His hands. It's not like you were ever in control. He is. But by your worship, you acknowledge this and even partner with Him for release of His power His way. looking for His answer instead of your own, and trusting His, especially when you cannot as yet see what this will be. The Bible gives us pictures of how God has responded to worshipful prayer in the past, with release of His power into their circumstances, which often, not always, went beyond any solution the people could have imagined on their own. Uniquely personal, but broader and more expansive in its effect. Since God is unchanging, the biblical stories give us clues to what you also can expect when you choose to worship Him as well. Worship is not pleading, not begging, but admiring, extolling, paying homage, adoring, literally and figuratively bowing down to Him, which means simultaneously releasing all you are so worried about to His providential care, because He is worthy, because it's who He is. To make worship an integral part of your existence, therefore, puts you under God's covering. To use a biblical image, it puts you under the shelter of His wings. To worship God is not a service at a church, though some church services are called worship services because their intent is to use the time to corporately worship God. But keep in mind, worship is happening in heaven constantly before God's throne. It is designed to be an integral part of every relationship with God. So, worship is not synonymous with church service. To worship God isn't supposed to be difficult or burdensome either. It is natural. It's part of what you're made for. To be a worshiper of God is a way of life. To be a worshiper of God is a way of life. In recent decades, a plethora of songs have been developed which are called worship or praise songs. These combine the posture toward God of worship with the benefits God created music to have, the effect of vibration and frequency. When these songs have lyrics, these contribute toward orienting your mind toward God with the experience of these songs to facilitate your inner preparedness for God connection, while both music and words invite Him to come. God made music to have effect, and He made you as a creature of habit. You are affected by repetition. Thus, through repeated engagement with a song, its music and lyrics, the message of the song becomes as if engraved on your heart. It sears into your consciousness and seeps into your subconscious. It acts to form and inform your way of thinking. You are being molded like moist clay to be like that you behold. When the song is God-oriented, like a worship song, it lifts you up from dark places, strengthens you when you feel weak, encourages you when hope is lost, douses fear when it rises up as if to consume you, and ignites a deeper love of God in you. You would think that would be enough benefit to using songs to worship God, but there is more. God is supernatural. He is comforter, healer, consoler, warrior. He will fight for you because He is love. He promises to draw near when you seek to draw near to Him. When He comes closer, He cannot just come with part of Himself. Thus there is an inner working which you will not be able to explain. He will touch you spiritually and supernaturally in the incremental and progressive ways you need, even when you may not realize it. He is God. This is His grace, His gift, an outcome of His love. Every song I am commending to you is worship. These are prayers which were set to music to make them easy for you to offer in prayer. Those with lyrics are honest. They talk to God worshipfully in light of real-life issues. Listen to the songs. Listen more than once until they become prayers of your heart. Visit my website and learn more about each album. Listen to these messages for stories behind the songs. Visit my YouTube channel. Subscribe. Check out the playlists. There is one for each album as well as those which are topic specific to make it easier for you to find the songs which fit where you are now, where God can feed you through them. Spiritual sustenance, nourishment not just to carry you through, but to meet your deepest spiritual needs along the way because God meets you there, to satiate your hungers and alleviate your sufferings. You will know when it's time to scan the lists for additional songs to use as your prayer focus. Let's finish with a scripture which provides the foundation for relationship with God. It is an instruction given to the Jewish people following their freedom from slavery in Egypt, which provides the basis for the rest of their lives, which were to revolve around this relationship and how to do it. From the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verses 4 through 9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, the only Lord, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your mind and heart, and with your entire being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you this day shall be first in your own minds and hearts. Then you shall whet and sharpen them so as to make them penetrate, and teach and impress them diligently upon the minds and hearts of your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in this house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be the frontlets, the forehead bands between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Listen to the song, All Honor and Glory and Blessing, from the God Seeker album. You can find the song, All Honor and Glory and Blessing, on my YouTube channel, iTunes, various streaming services, and always on CD. Listen to it until it becomes your heart's cry to God. Thank you for listening. God Seeker messages are brought to you by Eagle's Nest Foundation. Until next time, this is Elizabeth Fulgaro. Remember, I am praying for you. Use the song, All Honor and Glory and Blessing, as your prayer, and keep seeking God.